Sonic Underground episode 19, Friend or Foe. So yeah, another episode where they get betrayed by someone, right? It's surprising they can trust anyone who approaches them. They fly an airship they apparently got to the dreaded floating island. It would have made sense if they had the tornado to get here. Wait, the floating island? They're coming to a dangerous island to try to find their mother. How could she get here? She hasn't been seen with the Oracle in ages. She's a fugitive, so she wouldn't get to buy a plane. They would report her. The Oracle was the one who had warned Sonic about the echidna. So did the Oracle have a bad encounter with Knuckles? Well, I guess because he's so overpowered, he would magically know about Knuckles and stuff. Sonic gets caught in a net, and he relaxes and calls it a hammock, which is a contrast to Sonic 3, where Sonic actually is reacting negatively to the traps and being relatable and the butt of a joke, while here he's just a bit of a creator's pet. Anyways, of course it turns out the bounty hunters will be a part of the episode, when I thought since the heroes were going to the floating island, where they shouldn't even know this place exists, we get a break from these villains. Robotnik, after taking an eternity to get to this point, tells the bad guys to trick Knuckles, make the island fall down and crash with the heroes on it. Seriously, that was all padding. And Dingo asks what's an echidna, showing that they're rare in this continuity. Just fuck effort. They fall into another trap. How did Knuckles learn to build these traps? I was really surprised by the kind of voice Knuckles had.
Now you get to beat dinner.
It almost sounded like Sonic's. He roasts Sleet over a fire and threatens them with a red dinosaur that's surprisingly big. I thought his pet dinosaur would be smaller than him, to work better as a pet. Sleet lies to Knux that he's here to stop Sonic, the real invader, and Knuckles looks in his pouch thing and presses the red button on Sleet's instruction. He sees a hologram with the heroes being edited to say they're going to steal the Chaos Emerald as opposed to Master Emerald. The way Sonia was talking, it's obvious the video is being manipulatively cut, because she interrupted herself. And the heroes are talking in such a monotone acting voice. I don't understand, if they have the technology to make a fake message like this, they would have had the heroes not be acting horribly. I guess Knuckles isn't familiar enough with how people express emotion to recognize wooden acting. Oh cool, dinosaurs seem suspicious of the bounty hunters, making them run away. It would have been competent of him to fight them, though. And he rewatches Sonic's hologram. By the way, I really like this idea. Knuckles having a pet, that's pretty novel. As is him having a dinosaur for a pet, because that's badass. It doesn't look like Yoshi to be too much like Mario. It looks like a badass dinosaur, and he isn't shown to be riding it yet. And if you think this is too stupid, you forget you're watching a cartoon about a talking blue hedgehog. Anything goes here. This is a sci-fi fantasy universe. It's not too ridiculous that a dinosaur could exist at this point in time. Fleetway also had the concept of someone having a dinosaur pet. And it was done differently there. Knuckles drills out of the ground to make the heroes fall into the dirt, and Sonia complains about getting dirty. Like, they take every opportunity to remind us what her personality is. I like that. Sonic looks at Manic and says they're mostly not thieves. Another charming line.
Not thieves! Well, mostly we're not.
Knuckles spins his fist and knocks Sonic over. He then drills into the ground. I love that he's using his abilities from the games. Sonia thinks she can reason with Knuckles, even though he refused to believe Sonic. After Sonic's knocked away in his super spin, Sonia tells Knuckles they're here to find Queen Alina. Why would he be convinced by her just because she's the one talking? Fortunately, he's not, as they run away when he gets out of the ground. Sonia lampshades that Sonic hasn't done a good job so far. He finally gets the idea to spin him around in a tornado. The next time, Knuckles is ready and digs into the ground. I love seeing Knuckles in old Sonic cartoon, and he's the actual Knuckles, not a stupid, dumb idiot. He has every reason to be suspicious of them, because he doesn't know them yet. So, I can't really say that he's a total thunderhead like in the other Sonic shows so far. This is the actual Knuckles, the way you'd imagine him to be. He tricks the heroes into all falling into holes as cool guitar music plays to show how epically he succeeded. Way to prove my point. Sonic spreads his legs to slow his fall and somehow starts moving upwards. I guess the medallions did it. It's especially cool because I thought the heroes would use their medallions and win too easily, but instead Knuckles one-ups them. The bounty hunters want to get to the emerald as they move underground. Dingo is transformed into a canoe for Sleek to pedal. For some reason, his mouth is at the bottom of the canoe, so he gurgles the water, and yet he doesn't drown. Sonia uses her keyboard laser to break through the ground in the hole. I really love getting to see Knuckles and Sonic fight in motion, not in a comic book where it's a lame fight in a game. It was such a brilliant idea to have Knuckles in the show. I hope we switch to his perspective a lot, like half the time. The formula was getting stale with just the regular main characters and they constantly chase after their mother. What kind of adventures could Knuckles have when he's stuck on one island guarding the Master Emerald, though? Well, Pender's found a way around that. Somebody else was guarding the Emerald. Sonic runs around dodging falling boulders, and Knuckles pulls a rope to send a ton of rocks at him from a tree, which Sonic somehow dodges, somehow. Sonic tells Knuckles that he'd take him to his siblings. Why would he expect Knuckles to take him to his siblings? Sonia complains the light does nothing for her complexion, and says it's a beautiful place she's seeing. The dinosaur is smart enough to show them the hologram about them talking, I guess to confront them on how evil he thinks they are, but out of nowhere, he lies on the ground like a dog wanting to be petted on the chest. So I guess he eventually figured out that the hologram was an edited video, despite no exposure to videos or editing. I respect how smart this dinosaur is for a pet that can't talk, but this is really convenient. Sonic runs along a crumbling stone bridge, jumping at one point, to eventually spin dash into the ground and sneak up on Knuckles. This would have made a great action set piece for the actual game. Then Knuckles is about to fall over and fall off the island. Sonic makes a joke that he needs a hand, taking a while to help him, and finally he grabs him and pulls him up. Knuckles asks why he saved him, since a regular thief wouldn't, and he puts his arm around him and says that they should talk, calling Knuckles Bud. I can understand why this would convince Knuckles to trust him. The dinosaur is being really unusually nice to people he should have no reason to believe are anything but evil intruders so far. That was plot convenient. Manic says that one snap means yes, two means no, so he teaches the dinosaur to communicate without needing to talk. So the dinosaur doesn't have vocal cords, but can still be smart enough to communicate. Again, I love this idea. They really cared since they bothered to have this new and refreshing concept with Knuckles, when otherwise Knuckles is being a carbon copy of the game version of him with no effort at all. Knuckles somehow sees the bounty hunter stealing the emerald by looking at a geyser, although that's kind of cool, and the island starts falling. And when Knuckles says the island is falling, his acting is really wooden. I'd expect Knuckles to have a much deeper voice than this. The bounty hunters try to make their escape, and Sonia points out where they are to Knuckles. Dingo is distracted seeing Sonia and trips on a rock, dropping the emerald. Sleek tells robots to move out and retrieve the emerald. The airship leaves without the emerald, and for no reason, a bad song blindsides the audience, and this time without the stretch out or narrow footage of the show to indicate that it's a song playing, so it's harder to skip. Anyways, Knuckles cooks Sonic an echidna delicacy, and Sonic smells it only to give it to the dinosaur. They sit around a campfire at night, and it turns out that Queen Alina was with Knuckles when he was just a kid. She left a message saying that Knuckles is the guardian and the first ally of the heroes will be him. And they all hold hands over the emerald they apparently got back. They should have gotten it back during the song that everyone would have skipped. By the way, the heroes have had plenty of allies before Knuckles. But I guess she means the first ally that matters because it'll be in more than one episode. But that doesn't make it sense. But it doesn't make sense for her to make that mistake in universe. Cyrus is helpful. The Australian was helpful. They all mattered, didn't they? And she seems to know everything. So wouldn't she know about them? So this episode was a better version of the Sonic 3 and Knuckles story. In fact, it might be my favorite of the Sonic 3 adaptations by far. First of all, Knuckles gets tricked by a hologram of Sleek and Dingoes that shows manipulatively edited video footage of the heroes, where the heroes say they're gonna steal the emeralds, which makes a lot more sense to trick him. Honestly, I don't think, well, since he caught the bounty hunters, they had no choice but to trick him to make him stop roasting them over a fire. Does he murder all of his suspected thieves by doing that? They would have been dead way earlier than that from the convection of the fire, by the way. Anyways, Knuckles lives all alone on Island, so I doubt he'd have any experience with how people normally express emotion through their tone, or the concept of manipulative cuts in a video. So I can kind of understand him being fooled, but still, if the villains had the technology to make a video like this, they wouldn't have had the heroes have one acting in it. And yet this is still infinitely more believable than Knuckles being fooled by Robotnik, who has evil black and red eyes. And yet this very thing happened in both Archie and Fleetway. Even in Sonic 3, there's no indication that Eggman showed him a video of Sonic to trick him. So this is already much better. They needed to trick him so they could get away and steal the emerald, but logically Knuckles should have told them to stay with him when he was fighting Sonic, since he shouldn't trust them that easily just because they rat out some other thieves. For all he knew, they were still thieves and they just wanted to get some other people into trouble. And then they could get away from him while he was busy with his awesome fight with Sonic. I love that they used abilities that were either in the games or otherwise made sense for them to have. It's so great to see them fight in motion, and to have Knuckles in the show at all so we can have a secondary hero group to have more varied episode plots with. And to have Knuckles with a pet that's a badass dinosaur that's both surprisingly sweet, so it makes sense that it's a pet, and smart, since he figured out the heroes were good guys. I think it was a Deus Ex Machina that you decided to trust them so easily, though. He had no reason to not simply attack them like I was expecting. I love that Manic was smart enough to teach him to communicate with nods in response to yes or no questions. I hope Knuckles does that with him too, since that would make sense after he spent all that time with him. It's refreshing to give Knuckles a pet like this. You never have this in any other continuity. And I'm glad they at least put some effort into making things unique and original with Knuckles, since in every other way, Knuckles had the exact same role as in the game. I love that Sonic convinced him to be friends by saving his life. It makes sense. It was a difference from the game where he was shocked by the person stealing the emerald, and so he would have a good reason to hate Eggman, but there was no indication in the game that Sonic was telling him to hate Eggman, and thus Eggman being evil would make Sonic the good guy. It should be the Master Emerald though, not a Chaos Emerald, unless that's the only Chaos Emerald that will ever appear in the show. And I found it forced that Queen Alina actually visited this island when Knuckles was a kid. Are you serious? How? Did she fly a plane? Where did she get that in a tyrannical dictatorship world? Was she raising him as his mother? Which would have explained how he could have survived as a really little kid? How long was she on the island? Why doesn't she stay there where she'll be safe from Robotnik forever, aside from to be a Deus Ex Machina to her kids by following them around, when she shouldn't know where they are? So, like, they're following her around, so how can she follow them around to be a Deus Ex Machina? They find the most convoluted excuses to have her be in places. And Knuckles' voice was kinda lame. But I'm still really glad Knuckles was introduced in this show. I'm really looking forward to seeing how his plots are gonna be. It seems to be a turning point for the show to be even better than it was before, since now it's not just about siblings.